Hi, my name is Renita Patterson, and I'm the owner of Travel State of Mind. I just want to say working with Rita has been fantabulous. All of the courses that I've taken and being part of the marketing business school has been very educational, rewarding, enjoyable, pleasing, and gratifying. I'm glad to be a part of anything that Rita puts out. She is very informative, comprehensible, and she makes you feel comfortable. Thank you.
Hello, travel biz owner. Welcome to my corner of the travel industry, the Strategic Travel Entrepreneur Podcast. If you're ready to have fun, be inspired, get clarity, and take action in your travel business, then you're in the right place. Let's jump in. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. If you're new around here, my name is Rita M. Perez, and I am the host. I'm a travel agency owner turned educator and mentor, and I have so many resources to help you build your travel business, including the newly founded cruise content library that I am currently building out. So if you'd like to find out more information on that, click on one of the links below. It is to make finding B-roll and video clips for reels and shorts so much easier for you. And then something else that I wanted to let you know about before we jump into today's social media report is one of my colleagues, Kristen Richards of Inflow Design Co. You may know her. She as Girl Boss Designer, but she recently did a rebrand. She is hosting a free workshop next week called Captivate with Color. And it's all about using color psychology to design your brand colors intentionally. So if you are looking to figure out what your brand colors are or do kind of like a rebrand or reformulation, this is going to be a really great 2-day workshop for you. It's happening May 21st and the 22nd, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. And you can sign up at captivatewithcolor.com, and I'll add the link below too. Something that's really cool about this is that you're going to get a free mood board template to work with. And by joining the workshop and joining the Facebook group, she will also give you direct feedback on what you're working on currently within that workshop time period. So make sure to join that today. All right, without further ado, I wanted to present you with some pretty interesting information that I found earlier this week regarding social media. So Hootsuite put out this report, the Social Media Consumer Report. And I love that they put it out with the consumer in mind and not like marketers in mind, so that you can get into the brain of what people who are using social media, what they're thinking about when they're on social media. So like some of the biggest findings from this report. So we're going to be talking all about data and kind of like my thoughts on how you can use this for your own travel business. So some of the big stats, it says of the following people who follow brands on social media. So of people who may be following you on social media, 63% recognize that advertising is what keeps social media free, but 59% thinks there is too much of it. So that's a little bit of a problem. 52% are exhausted by self-promotional content. This was a huge thing, and this is kind of like what I've been talking about recently, and especially like in last week's episode, that you need to like create more of a relationship. Yes, talk about what you do and like how people can work with you, but really it is that education, that entertainment, that information that people are there for, not to be sold to. 1 in 3 would prefer if there was no brand content at all. So you can see people are having a little bit of a tough relationship with social media and people promoting on social media. So where are we as people who are using social media as a tool going wrong? So here are some of the findings. Making assumptions about your audience on social, who they are, how they behave, and what they want, or worse, not even knowing these things to start off with, which is not anything new to me. It's something that I kind of been preaching a lot, is that you really have to know who your people are so that you can speak to them. Making assumptions is not going to help anyone. And like, if you are basing your social media efforts off of making assumptions, I think this report kind of proves that if you haven't been seeing results in your social media, this could be a reason why. Another place where you could be going wrong is treating social media like a giant marketing megaphone instead of adding value to people's experience. And I think like this is a lot of what I've been doing recently when I think about studying social media and what's working and what's not working. And what's really working is where people are adding that value. And like, I think about this in terms of like influencers, like how are influencers getting brand deals and all that? It's because they're giving value to their audience instead of trying to sell their audience. Now, again, like we as business owners have to think about it a little bit differently because travel influencing is different than like travel advising or having a tour operator business or anything like that. But what can you do to enhance? That's why all these like book a call with me, all these types of things are irking people because that's not what people want on social media. From the findings from like what I mentioned, like people know that it has to happen in order for people to make money, but they don't want you to be doing it all the time. Another place where you can go wrong is focusing too much on the point of purchase and not on what happens afterwards. So, and what I think about that is the transformation that comes afterwards. We're thinking too much about like book your travel with me and not what booking your travel with me can do for me in the long run. So I think like those are things that we need to like have on the forefront when you're thinking about social media. And you know, I also say this, that I've taken semi of a break on social media, and really what I use social media is to like pull out little snippets of what's happening in the podcast. And I know that I need to be doing more personally on the social media, specifically when I'm talking about my Take the Helm account. But I feel like, you know, I've been hibernating a little bit. Just I needed to pull myself back so I could put more energy in other things that I have seen working. And I am slowly but surely starting to get reignited about social media. And I think like part of it is realizing some of these things that I think we come at it with social media like we need to sell. And that is not the point of social media. So how do we fix these things that are a little bit broken? That's kind of like what this report helps, because nobody, again, needs to hear what other marketing people are doing, even though it's pretty cool to like get an inside look of what other people are doing. We need to know how consumers are utilizing social media, consuming social media. And so one of the really cool things about like when they received and like put this data together, they identified there's active shoppers that are on social media, and then there's casual followers. So there's consumers, if they're an active shopper, they frequently buy because of social media. And then who or what is on a brand's presence. That social media has a large influence on their decision making. Where casual followers are those that don't frequently buy on social media. They say that somebody's presence on social media doesn't really have as big of an influence on their buying decisions. So two very different kind of landscapes. So what did they ask them in this report? What brand behaviors do they like or don't they like? Their beliefs about the social media landscape, why they follow brands or share their content, how they behaviorally react to paid, organic, and shared posts. So there's 3 common themes from this report. And I like the first one. The first one's kind of like sins and virtues. So what you get right and what you get wrong, and how consumers feel. There's also an importance about building a high value following, the relationship between followers and commercial intent, and how to get more valuable followers. And then there's also paid versus earned versus shared. So what types of exposure are you getting, and how does that impact the buying journey at each stage of the buying journey? Because like we're all, your consumers are all in different buying stages, and we're also all in different buying stages ourselves. So when you think that the next meal that you make, you may be considering this cheese or that cheese, or buying this ice cream or that ice cream. That's what we're saying in the buying stage. Like there's certain brands that you immediately want to buy at the grocery store. There's some brands that you've been curious about, but you're not sure if you want to try it out. So that's like, you can see the different buying stages in there. So what are we getting right and what are we getting wrong? So the 5 worst sins that brands and businesses can commit on social media. The top one was clickbait content, which, thank you. I think we all dislike clickbait content, and clickbait. I think I think I talked about this either in my trends with marketing business school, or something at the end or beginning of the year, where like clickbait content was just not going to work anymore. Like, it was going to frustrate people. While yes, you can up your clicks, it's also like the easiest way for people to get unfollowed. So that's when we say like what they're categorizing a sin in these terms, it's what is the content that is most likely to get you unfollowed or hidden by everyday consumers. So clickbait, like you're just writing something, or you're hooking someone in and you're not providing the value that you said you were going to provide, or you're kind of like hiding the way that you do it. Inauthentic content. I was really intrigued by this, and I know it's super subjective, so we're going to get into what that means. And like the 2, 3, and 4 spots were kind of like tied. After inauthentic content, there's boring content. So content that I'm like, it's a little bit of a snooze fest. And then there's repetitive content. And I don't think this means what you might think it mean initially. So I keep talking about like you have to keep repeating yourself. I don't think it's that you're repeating the same things. It's that you're using the same like maybe you're using the same graphic over and over and over again is where the offense comes in. And then angling things for metrics. So really, if you're designing things for clicks and things like that, again, kind of like going in with clickbaity. So what exactly do some of these things mean? And like where are the things that are most apt for unfollows versus hiding? So posting clickbait, which means you're misleading intentionally. Posting that repetitive content. When I say posting boring content, what they mean from what people were saying was it does not appeal to me. And then that angling for metrics is that you're provoking reactions to increase clicks and comments. Excessive self-promoting was another thing that people were not liking, and was more of a reason for them to unfollow you than to keep following you. Making generic or automated comments, overusing memes or social trends, which that was pretty interesting. Now, it doesn't have as big of a pool as the top ones. This is on the lower spectrum. I'll stop there because there's just so much to go over. So I want to go over like what the facts are from this. So let's see. Marketers post. So this is probably why you're posting repetitive content. Marketers post repetitive content to save time when their backs are against deadlines. So this is pretty much like when you're like, I just need to make a post. It's probably better for you not to make the post if that's what it's going to come out to, if you're just going to be reusing a piece of content that you've already put out there. Cultural areas people would rather brands stay away from. And I found this super fascinating. So there's some things that people want you to talk about, and there's some things that people don't want you talking about. And then this also comes into like the authenticity because real people recognize fake when they see it. So, especially like when you're talking about environmentality and how like we need to be socially conscious and all that. But then if somebody looks into your company and you don't have those same practices and procedures, that's called greenwashing. And so when people are talking about the authenticity, so this could mean like you are wanting to sell luxury travel and you talk about luxury experiences, but when you talk about luxury experiences, you promote Carnival or you promote Expedia. Those are not luxury experiences to the luxury traveler. So that gets kind of, if you're kind of like confused why people aren't being attracted to luxury, your luxury travel agency, and that's what you're promoting, there's a very big disconnect with what people are expecting and what you're putting out there. And so that is what people talk about when they're meaning like something is inauthentic. So I know it, and the top ones were kind of like a lot of the ones that people say like, oh, the old adage of like, you don't talk about this, this, and this. So when we're talking about, and see, like, I was intrigued by this because I feel like a lot of people follow certain people because of these things too. So maybe it is that you share the values, but you don't talk about it as much. I'm not sure. This was a really tricky one. So cultural areas people would rather brands stay away from: political policies, religion and spirituality, and gender identification and sexuality were kind of like the top three things. I would say honorable mentions from there are racial equality and gender equality, which again, I find this like a little bit polarizing because I myself am attracted to brands and I want to keep following and promoting brands that align with those things for me. So this is just very interesting. All right, so let's keep moving forward. It does seem like the younger generations are more welcoming, just a little bit. Not totally a lot, but they're more welcoming. So they were comparing baby boomers versus Gen Z. And I don't think that this should be that much of a surprise that Gen Z is more apt to talking a lot about more like things that are happening socially, environmentally, or things that are happening news-wise than baby boomers are, because baby boomers and more older generations, I will even say like myself as an elder millennial, I was grown and raised like with you don't talk about politics, you don't talk about religion, you don't talk about money. But Gen Z was not kind of raised in that mentality. Maybe they were, and I'm making very wide generalizations. Like I know not everybody falls along these categories and all that. But it does seem like the younger generations are a little bit more open to hearing this information than the older generations are. So just something to think about when you are putting out information and who you're marketing it to. So what do people actually want to see from us on social media? And so they call this the trifecta of entertainment. They want to see something new. They want to see something funny. And they want to see something inspiring, which is kind of what I've been saying without saying it, is that you saw on that list, like, it's not that I want to buy things. It's not that I want to be sold to. It's not that I want a sales presentation. I want something new. I want something funny, and I want something inspiring. So when you're thinking about content then for your travel business, what are the things that consumers are really enjoying? So actually what came on top is tell me something new. Tell me or teach me something new. Which you, as a travel business owner, there are so many new things that you can teach people. When I'm specifically thinking about cruising, people don't even know that river cruising is a thing that exists. People don't even know that there's brands outside of the mass market lines like Royal Caribbean, Carnival, Norwegian that exist. So those are like different realms where you can do teaching. So if you're kind of like, I'm not exactly sure what to post on social media, like use this as a blueprint. teaching or telling about something new. It may not be something new to you, but it may be something new to your audience. Closely right after teaching something new is making people laugh, which I love to do. Like, I will be mindlessly scrolling on social media for that, like, what is it? The serotonin boost, that boost in like the happy juice, the happy feelings, the endorphins. That's what it is. Endorphins. I used the wrong term. So make me laugh. Then people want to be inspired. So, okay, before we go to inspire, make me laugh, like, what are some of the funny things that happen in travel? There's a lot of funny things, and I think you can even use, like, silly questions that you've been asked as a travel advisor, as a tour operator, as things that make people laugh. Then we go to the inspiration. That's a huge reason why people travel. So this should be a no-brainer. People want to be inspired, so inspire them. And when we're thinking about this too, that's also thinking about the end goal, not making the sale, but what the sale means to your client, not means to you. Because to you, initially, that means income. To your client, that means ease. That means I don't have to spend hours doing this myself. That means I know I'm going to have a really amazing experience when I'm there. That means like the experience that I have been like saving years for is going to be fantastic. Like, what is that end goal? Those are some of the things to think about with inspiring content. Then make me feel something, and something that visually engages me are other things that people like from brands, and then something that surprises me, which I feel kind of like goes into like teach me something new a little bit. So those are the top types of content that people want to be seeing on social media. Now, another thing that was interesting from this report is I like when brands join in the social media conversation during different types of events. And I'm like, I would have never thought this, but it kind of does make sense. I mean, the top one was major sporting events. So how can you correlate major sporting events to like something that might be happening in travel? So using those things, and like the biggest thing in sports is happening this summer, the Olympics in Paris. So you'll want to like use whatever is happening in the Olympics and relate it to content that you can create for your travel business for sure. The second one is pop culture moments. And I think this recently happened. The Met Gala was happening, and all those like memes and things were popping up about the Met Gala and how people like related it to their business or to something that happens like within their industry. So those are like really like timely things that you need to like keep up on, and how that can relate to what it is that you do and how you provide value as a travel expert. Unfolding news events, social justice movements, and political events were the other types of events that people like to see brands joining in the social media conversation for. So a really great example of this too, they kind of like outlined it. So remember Oscars nominations were happening, Barbie movie kind of got snubbed on a lot of things. We don't have to like go into a conversation on like how we feel about that or whatever. The Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation, it seems like they won over Twitter or X by posting, hypothetically, if I was going to nominate a film about a badger, starring a badger, called Badger for Best Picture, I would also nominate the badger, right? And that garnered 1.3 million views. So I love that they gave this example out, because you know that they're clearly talking about what was happening to the Barbie movie and the snub that the Barbie movie had. But this had nothing to do, like, how does the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation relate to the Barbie movie? It doesn't. But they were able to get on to like the big conversation that was happening at the time they were able to capitalize on that and get lots more views, lots more engagement. And they probably didn't have nearly as much engagement before this. So it got a lot of people, like eyeballs on what they do. So I'm not sure what it did followership wise, but this got over 4,500 reposts, lots of people interacting, 47,000 likes. This was a huge visibility point with it. And that's probably the biggest thing that you need to realize for social media too, or one of the biggest things, is that what can your content do for you to give you a bigger platform on these types of platforms? So kudos to the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation for doing that. All right, so they also did a couple of what's in and what's out. So what is out? Letting tight deadlines and unrealistic expectations lure you into making repetitive, boring content. Jumping on a trend or meme just because other brands have. And then shoehorning your brand into larger cultural conversations. But what's in is using data about your audience's preferences to create social content that's more about them and less about you. Creating content and entertaining content, creating unique and entertaining content directly related to your brand or industry, leaning into cultural moments that are actually aligned with your business. So, those are some things you should be looking out for. So how next we know now you have kind of like a blueprint of what kind of content you should be putting out there. The next part of that is, how do you build a high value following? And are social media followers actually valuable to your bottom line? The answer is yes. 75% of people who follow brands on social have explicit plans to purchase from them soon or in the future. 59% of people have already purchased from the brands they follow. If Gen Z follows a brand, it's twice as likely to signal intent to purchase soon compared to baby boomers. This is huge factoids on especially getting quality followers and getting them closer to a buying decision, which is what social media is for. This is huge to see that correlation also. Following a brand on social directly impacts purchase decisions. 58% of respondents say that. So 58% saying that social media has a moderate to high impact on purchase decisions is ginormous, I think. That's 1 in 2 people are going to be making a purchase decision from your social media post. I think that's pretty huge. What social content gets followers? So I'm going to give a couple of examples that go through a couple of different generations, because again, we're talking about that authentic, inspiring, and compelling point of view type of content. So here's real world quotes from people who took this survey. If a brand's ethics don't match their products or services, it feels forced. My pet peeve is when brands try to jump on culturally relevant moments just to gain traction online or with a Gen Z audience. It comes across as disingenuous. Authenticity is the word of the year, yet it's actually pretty hard to nail down for many brands. And that comes from a Gen Zer. I like brands that have something to say on a given topic without sounding like they're towing the company line or repeating what other brands are saying on the same subject. Brands that speak to me are also ones that have relatable personalities. That's a Gen Xer. Authentic and reliable to me means relevant, sincere, creative, and funny. Desperation and far-reaching attempts at humor and edginess are easy to spot. And that comes from a baby boomer. So when deciding to follow a brand, what aspect of their social media presence is most appealing? And this I found super interesting. Communicating in a relatable and authentic way, posting content that inspires me, having a compelling point of view within their area of expertise, That one was huge when I read that. Having a compelling point of view within their area of expertise. Your area of expertise is somewhere in travel. You have had different experiences, you've been different places. Like, even if you sell the same thing as somebody else, the two of you are going to have very different viewpoints because of the different experiences that you've had within your life and within travel. That is what people want to hear. That is what is going to connect with people the most, outside of communicating in a relatable and authentic way and posting content that inspires me. Feel comfortable and confident in the voice that you have. Another thing that really appeals, and I don't know why people don't do this, responding to direct questions and comments in a timely way. I know sometimes like time can get away from us, or like tasks can get away from us, but it is crucial that if you're going to be putting content out there, you need to be answering people back who are giving you comments, who are giving you feedback, who are interacting with your content. They just did you a favor and increase the engagement on your post. You also need to return the favor back, and returning the favor back again increases the engagement on that post. So it only helps you even more. Making an effort to say or do things creatively or in an entertaining way. So that kind of went 50-50. Another one that went 50-50 was having good vibes or a visual aesthetic I'm into. So I would say like those things aren't as important as the things that we kind of talked about. And then things that aren't as important are having interesting things to say about the world beyond your products and services. People don't really care about that. And then maintaining an active social presence by consistently posting and interacting. They don't really care about that either. So like how often you post and posting a lot was not a big concern. I loved seeing that as well. Gen Z respondents, interestingly enough, were much more likely to be concerned with a brand's vibe, aesthetics, and creativity on social media than their older counterparts, which kind of makes sense from, I was watching like a documentary on this clothing line on HBO and kind of like its downfall, but it shot up to like popularity within Gen Z because of their aesthetics and the vibe. So if you're kind of like, I don't make pretty stuff and we're okay with that, I'm okay with that over here, this report kind of confirms on that. So what gets active shoppers following? Having interesting things to say about the world beyond your products and services, which that was interesting because it came on the lower spectrum. And then maintaining an active presence by consistently posting or interacting. So it's interesting, like it's not as important to like the casual followers, but it is just a little bit more important to active shoppers. Consistency and a cultural point of view matter. So what is out? Assuming that social media followers don't matter to the bottom line. Plastering your prospects and followers with the same content and making assumptions about consumer buying behavior based on their age. What is in is treating your followers like one of your most valuable and probably untapped potential customer segments. Creating specific strategies for reaching people you're trying to reach and engaging the people who you've already got to follow you. So that's also very important because that's different types of content. So people who already follow you, that's a nurture strategy versus new people is more of an attract and meet strategy. And then creating a social strategy based on the nuances of your customer base and not sweeping demographic generalizations. This is, again, something that I've been talking about, is that you have to be speaking exactly to who your ideal person is. Generalizations are out, definitely out in 2024. You have to be speaking to people's exact pain points. If you're not sure what those pain points are, it's a great time to run a survey and talk to the people. Why do you use my services? Why have you considered my services? Why do you keep coming back to me? And also go to those people who aren't working with you and haven't worked with you yet. What is it about working with me that is kind of like has you on the fence? Like, get to know your people. So what's the difference between paid versus earned versus shared? So there are three ways you can get in front of different audiences and build relationships with them. And that's to pay via ads. Then you can just organically show up on their feed thanks to the algorithm. Or you can be lucky enough to have one of your posts shared directly with them from friends or family. So how do these different types of exposure points, how do they affect buying behaviors? So at the awareness level, so that's top of funnel, being exposed to and observing the brand, things that you want to be on the lookout for, your metrics are reading, when people read the post and when they watch the video. That's the first thing they have to do. You know that they're at the consideration phase, the next phase, like the nurture phase, when they're taking a mental step towards a purchase, which means they're clicking like, they are commenting, they're following, they're sharing. And then they're ready to make a purchase, or they already have made a purchase because they're at the conversion level. They have bought the product or the service that you've been talking about. So those are the different things to kind of like be aware of and watching on your social media. Like, where are your people at when we're talking about the funnel? So what the report found is paid posts actually have a huge impact on awareness and discovery. Organic and shared posts fuel buying behavior, and not just in young people. So that was a huge thing. Like, we have to focus on making content that is shareable. And then shared posts, affirming that shared posts are the most powerful for turning awareness into consideration. So from making like, oh, I know what you do, to, oh, I kind of like what you do, I might want to buy from you. You have to get people to the next step. And that's really what marketing is, and what marketing does is getting people to the next step that gets you closer to the sale. Marketing leads to sales. So paid posts have a huge impact on awareness and discovery. The amount of people that, there was a large chunk of people that said, I have discovered new brands, products, services I'm interested in from paid or sponsored social posts. So this just creates a broader reach. So, and by paid, this means like ads also. So it doesn't mean like that one of our suppliers has to like sponsor a post. It just means that you're paying for ads to get pushed to different people. Organic and shared content fueled behavior, buying behavior, and not just in young people. Like, I'm looking at the numbers here, and it is pretty neck and neck, the differences between Gen Z and millennials versus Gen X and baby boomers. They say don't fall for false assumptions that social media is a young person's game. If you're dogmatic about social media being a channel for younger consumers, you're disqualifying a massive and highly valuable segment of active shoppers on social who are older than 35. And the best way to get people young and old to commit to purchasing from you is by making organic content that's worth their time and worth sharing with their friends and family. And then shared content is the most powerful. Content that people share with their family and friends is a form of social proof. And that is extremely persuasive in moving people through this messy middle, that nurture phase, and turning towards building relevance with your product or service. Shared posts have spurred consideration behaviors in 82% of people at least once in the past 12 months. And that's like why I am a huge proponent also of doing collaborations and things like that, because you're able to share different audiences. So what makes people share content from brands? The number one reason is I agreed with the content or perspective in the post. So again, going with that unique perspective. The other thing was the post was informative, which goes into like that top of why what content people consume is that teaching content. So something that is informative is something that people want to be sharing. The post was funny and entertainment. Again, going along with like the content that people want to see. So you can there is a direct correlation with what people want to see and what it is they share. Other things that they share is, I wanted another opinion on this thing that I found on social media. The post was inspirational. I wanted to start a conversation. The post reflected my personal values. On the other side of the spectrum is, I disagreed with the content or the perspective on the post. And then there's also the post featured an influencer, brand, or a person that I recognized. 78% of people have reshared a brand post that was shared with them by family or friends in the past 12 months, which is, again, huge. So if people are sharing your content, there's an even higher likelihood that the people it's been shared to are going to reshare that post that they've already shared. This is just, it's amazing to have this information. I hope that this is super helpful to you. Having your content shared on a regular basis is a strong sign that you've built significance in your relationship with consumers. People are engaged with your brand, and they find your content worth sharing with their family and friends. You've earned their trust, and in return, you're earning word of mouth, the most powerful marketing tool of all. The icing on the cake is that it's a virtuous cycle. When people see content from a brand because it was shared by a family or friend, they're more likely to comment on it or share it themselves. So what's out? Expecting every social ad you make to drive direct attributable revenue. Believing the think pieces claiming that organic social is dead, and creating content with the aim of going viral. I have much more things to say about that, but I know we've gone on a lot today already. What's in? Going or using social ads to drive top of funnel brand awareness. If you're kind of okay, it's kind of proven, I need to utilize social media ads in some way, I'm going to refer you to my buddy Zach Spuckler, and I'll add the information, his link in the show description below, because he has an amazing class. He does a challenge every quarter, I believe it is. He's not actively running a challenge right now, but he does have recordings from previous challenges that help you get your first or next social media ad up. And he uses information because he works with other people to set their ads up. He has an ad agency. So if you're interested in that, the link is below, because you don't want to be trying to do social media ads recklessly and without having some experience or some guidance in there, especially if you want to be getting quality results. What also is encouraging conversions in your organic content, because that audience is likely most primed for purchase. And then what's also in is making content as share worthy as possible. So all social media metrics can tell you something about whether you're achieving objectives and meeting your goals, but tracking the right metrics is the key to understanding your social ROI. Start with the focus on a few metrics that helps you tell the right story and build your business case. And kind of when we're thinking about metrics too, just see what posts are people liking, what posts are inspiring what types of action amongst people. Better consumer relationships are worth their weight in gold. So social media has spent over a decade trying to prove its place in the marketing departments. And while it's made leaps and bounds towards getting the respect and visibility that it deserves as a marketing channel, it's still relatively poorly understood by many marketing leaders whose careers preceded its existence. And for that, we really can't blame them. This industry moves fast, super fast, but this state of affairs has created an uphill battle for many social media managers and marketers who know social's importance, but can't prove it using more traditional marketing metrics or reporting structures. That's why Hootsuite set out to conduct this report and show marketers, we're wearing our marketer hat right now, that social media matters, that the relationships you build with your followers matters and directly impacts your revenue. So let me know your thoughts on this episode and some of these metrics. I normally say go to the Facebook group, but my podcast host Buzzsprout just came out with this super amazing messaging tool. So if you look in the show description, there's going to be something about like sending me a love note or sending me a message. I'm not sure exactly what it says, but it'll say like reach out to Rita. Hold on, let me see. I'm gonna look for it. It says send Rita a text with your thoughts. You may have to click it twice so that it connects with your text messaging service. But click on that link, send me a text with your thoughts and what you're thinking about social media. Because I would love to hear your thoughts on this report, because I think like this was so super valuable and I hope you got so many nuggets. I do want to reach out to, I did get some text messages helping me out this past week to make sure that this service worked. So shout out to 6890 in Denver, Colorado for helping me out with my test. All right, thank you so much for tuning in. I cannot wait to get your feedback via text message. Standard text messaging rates do apply. And I will see you here all next week. Bye for now. Thanks for joining me on the podcast today. Remember to check out the show notes for all relevant links and resources from today's show. See you next time.